Excellent, thank you. Okay, then we'll call our meeting to order and run through some introductions. My name is Ernie Conway. I'm Chair, Denney, Whitford, Raleigh West, co-chair. Our other co-chair, Sherry Moore, will be along shortly, we hope. We have our treasurer, Sherry Struck, and our recorder, Tracy Thornton. Rick, our BCCI rep, and that is our officer board. We have some visitors today for presentations and also a recap of residential street changes and one presentation for recycling. Purpose of the NAC is to involve the community and provide a way for the community to discuss to the city and for the city to kind of feed out in a different forum than they typically would for the newsletters and reports, press releases, those kind of things. So it's a better, more focused one-on-one with the various neighborhoods within the city. So with that, next up, we have a police report. Officer Hougen, sir.
Hello, Ernie. Can people hear me?
Yep.
So as far as, it's been a while, it's good to see all you guys. Hope everybody is doing well. News from the police department. First thing I like to do is look at crime statistics. Recently, I've noticed that the thefts have gone up throughout all of Beaverton. I can attribute that to a couple things. Recently, we've seen an uptick in theft of catalytic converters. We have groups of people that are trying to steal. Those are like those things under like a muffler underneath your car. People are trying to steal those for the precious metals that are inside of them. So we've been getting an uptick in those. Also, we've been getting an uptick in the number of stolen vehicles that are occurring within the area. Looking at what's maybe causing that, I would attribute that to, one is the jail is still not accepting or is only allowing people to be lodged that meet a certain criteria or a level of crime. And so a lot of these people that we maybe do catch that are committing these crimes, we just write them a ticket and send them on their way instead of taking them to the jail and maybe getting them to maybe stop and hopefully, I don't know, start doing the right thing. So again, we're seeing a lot of those. We're also seeing a lot more mental health stuff. Again, I think that's just, you can attribute that to, you know, what's been going on the past year and a half or so. As far as news within the police department, we are having a captain that's retiring. So that's going to be opening up promotions that should go all the way down to sergeant. Something that I'm really excited about is actually we're joining this mental health team. So Washington County Sheriff's Office, I believe they were the first to start it. They partnered with one of the local mental health agencies, and they have groups of deputies that their sole focus is they ride along with a mental health clinician and respond to mental health calls. We are joining that team along with some of the other local cities, which is awesome to see. Just to begin, I think it's a great partnership, and I'm excited to see that. Also, we're invited by the Sheriff's Office to join their drone team. Drones are expensive, and the benefit for drones help in critical incidents. Maybe I can only speak from my experience in them being used. Was recently we had a suicidal individual inside of an apartment and was threatening himself with a knife. And we were, with the assistance of a drone, we were able to successfully and safely get that person the help that they need. Other things that are going on within the police department, I noticed, and I've talked about this last time, I believe, was the online tours. Well, actually maybe hosting a NAC at the police department and maybe trying to do some sort of online tour. I know that there's a video right now posted of the new police department and the inside, but I'd still like to, I think it'd be really cool to have you guys at the police department, show you around, see what your guys' tax dollars went towards. Lastly, I try to think of like questions that people ask us. There's two. One, for those of you that aren't familiar with me, I'm assigned to the schools as a school resource officer. And so my primary schools right now are Sunset High School, St. Mary's Home for Boys. I also do West Sylvan Middle School, which is a Portland school, but falls into the city of Beaverton. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's actually the largest middle school within the Portland public school system, and it falls within Beaverton. I also do Jesuit High School. So we are back in the schools working with the great people there in the Beaverton School District and the private school sector. Also, another question that I get is from people, just citizens that walk up and just from what people see on the news about what's going on in Portland, they always ask us, do you guys go down to Portland? We do not go down to Portland. We have not gone down there. It's something that our police chief made the decision to do, and so we do not go down there. So for people that were ever wondered, hey, does Beaverton police ever go down there to Portland during the protests? We do not. I think that's all the news I have from the police department. Any questions?
No, none that I can think of.
Ernie, you usually have a good question for me.
I know. I don't have one yet. Yeah. Now, is there somebody on the staff though that watches the next door info?
Actively, no.
All right, because I see some of those comments about various crime, and I wonder if it's a reflection, kind of maybe it's a deeper conversation, just a reflection of the people that are using it or their perception, because some places seem to have a, we're falling apart and we're crime all over the place, and other people you don't hear anything out of them. So it's just kind of interesting if you get a lot of, there's a way to make a connection between the number of calls or non-emergency calls, because a lot of times they'll send some out and go, hey, this happened, and like, what did you call? And they're like, no. And they're like, well, you should report it in the non-emergency. I just was curious because we're on the edge of Portland, so the border and everything, we sometimes see a lot of things happening like in Garden Home and in unincorporated Washington County and in the Portland area just close by. So I just wondered if that kind of worked in with anything, because I know that you also cover, like if there was a call out here in Washington in Garden Home, you would actually help if Washco was busy, correct?
That is correct. Sometimes they'll ask for our assistance, assisting on calls, just because maybe typically like out in that area, out in Garden Home, there's usually just one deputy assigned out there. So a lot of times, maybe the closest officer is a Beaverton officer. And rarely, like if ever, do I see a Portland officer out that way. Where the old Thriftway used to be, I think it was a Bales. That whole area was, if there was something happened in the Sherry's parking lot there at Garden Home and Olson, if something ever happened in that parking lot, that was Portland. And stuff happened there, but like you were hard pressed to get anybody to respond out that far. As far as next door goes, I say, for example, we do have like a theft from vehicle or a theft from a mailbox or something like that. What I do, and I can't say that for all my coworkers, but I'll canvass the area to see if people have any kind of like, the ring door system or any kind of surveillance system up there. So that's what I do. But as far as actively monitoring the Nextdoor app, I don't think we have anybody that does that.
Okay. All right. Ron had a question. Lani, how does that work? Do you have to unmute him, or do we type it in?
You can
I can unmute.
There we go.
In regards to you're talking about a tour of the PSC,
Justin, would you be interested in including a walkthrough of the EOC area on the second floor?
Oh, 100%. Like your area is super cool. I think it's like one of the neater parts of the police department, actually.
Yeah, we have lots of chocolate.
Yeah, I would brag about that area. I mean, I didn't know that like the power of your guys' radios, like how far you guys can reach. It's just amazing. So, and so when you drive by the new building, most of those antennas are for those guys. They're not for us, and they can do some pretty amazing stuff. So if there's ever, unfortunately, a big natural disaster or something like that, we are, they are well prepared and well trained.
We try.
Excellent, thank you. Good point there, Ron. Any other questions, comments? Thank you. I appreciate everybody being out there and working, sir, and on the job. We still see everybody going around, and not always easy, I think, with everything going on in our current situation. So thank you for being out there and working through definitely some transition time too, especially with the schools and parents and kids and the buses coming back and summer almost starting. So a lot of churn and a lot of going on. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We appreciate your guys' support. So, and any feedback that you guys have, I'd be welcome to take it. You guys are good conduit for stuff like that. So.
Excellent. I'll come up with something next month. All right. With that, THPRD report for keep was Holly. Hello. Welcome back.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. So Jaspreet is your normal rep. She has a much deserved couple of days off. So I'm just covering for Jaspreet this evening. We are in full swing for summer registration. So for summer registration for in-district opened up on the 1st, out of district on the 3rd. It's going really well. We're seeing a high demand, which is really great. We have about half the offerings that we typically have in a normal summer, but lots more than we did last year. And the camps are really flexible. So they're throughout the district, mainly outdoors, all the health and safety guidance being followed. So it's really great to get folks back into summer camps and programs and classes. With that, we're also hiring. So we're bringing on board a lot of extra help during the summer, from summer camp leaders to camp directors. We're hiring in park maintenance. We're hiring in custodians, and we're hiring for lifeguards and inclusion assistants. Those are the folks that help people experiencing disabilities participate fully in programs. So lots of opportunities available. If you know people that are looking for part-time gigs, so lots of flexible job options, lots of outdoor opportunities available right now. We're having a job fair next week. It's on Wednesday, the 19th from 3 to 6 p.m. It's a virtual job fair. You can find that on our website, and we'll have breakout rooms in each of those work areas. If folks have questions and want to learn more about that, they'll be able to talk to managers and supervisors and staff who work in those areas. We also have a ton of volunteer opportunities. So I know a lot of kids have lost some time in getting service learning hours, for example. So we're really promoting our RISE volunteer program for youth. We take youth from age 14 and on, and they commit to doing 50 hours of volunteer service. And we have lots of one-day opportunities and ongoing opportunities for them. And we have lots of one-day volunteer opportunities for adults as well. So if you want to have volunteer experience, there's lots of options. Memorial Day is just around the corner. We're partnering with American Legion Beaverton Post 124. It will be, again, a different Memorial Day for us, but we're doing a remembrance walk. So we are accepting photos. We're asking folks to send in photos of someone you want to honor on Memorial Day. And we will post the photos around Memorial Park, and there will be activities there and a remembrance walk to honor folks. So you can send in photos through our Instagram or our Facebook accounts, and we're happy to receive those. We have an event this Saturday out at Vos Elementary. This one is going to be a really cool event. It's called La Primavera con Familia y Amigos, Spring with Family and Friends. And the whole point of it is to get public input on new park design for a park that will be going in eventually. at Baker Loop and Lombard. So just down the street from a lot of stuff at Allen and Lombard. And we're giving away, we partnered with a lot of, I actually have them right here because I was preparing them, but we partnered with a lot of local restaurants along Allen Boulevard and the food trucks. Ooh, this is the El Jefe food truck, really good one. So we have vouchers. So if you come by and give us feedback on the new park design and share your input, we've got goodies for folks who give input. So it's really a great partnership supporting some of the local small businesses along there and getting the public excited about designing the park for the neighborhoods. That's super cool. We got a great call last month from the YMCA. They wanted to give us a grant, which was awesome. It was $64,000 to provide a summer camp for youth. The grant had to be used before the end of June. So it was a gift, but it was like, whoa, that's a lot of work to do. So we were able to mobilize quickly, and we got 160 youth that are on our financial aid list enrolled in summer camps for the last 2 weeks of June. So a lot of kids are going to get free summer camp this year, thanks to the generosity of the YMCA. So that was super. It was a mad dash, but it was totally worth it. Super exciting. Mobile rec is out in full force. So again, you know, as some centers are closed, we've been really intentional. We have all forms of our mobile rec. So that's the Nature Mobile, that's Wellness on Wheels, which really focuses on our 55 and better community. And we have another one that focuses on people experiencing disabilities. So you can check our website. Mobile rec is out every day and find them, and it's free to participate in recreation programs out in the parks. And then our friends in Nature and Trails want to remind us that this is a beautiful time of year to explore the trails and visit the nature parks. Bird watching is especially awesome right now at Greenway, Commonwealth Lake, Bronson Creek Greenway, and Bronson Creek Park. And spring wildflowers are in full bloom, particularly the Nature Park, Whispering Woods, and Jordan Woods are some lovely kind of view spots if you want to check out the wildflowers. There's also a public meeting in another week on May 20th that will be looking at Beaverton Creek Trail and about 1.5 mile alignment that they're working on that trail. So there's a public meeting that you can find on our website as well. So that's what's happening at THPRD. I know we've gotten a lot of questions with kind of changes in guidance from the governor that have come out in the next couple of days, or the last couple of days, what that means for THPRD programs. The answer is we're still working through that. So we're looking at how those guidance changes affect what we can open. Oh yeah, Sherry, that's a great question. So Sherry asked, will there be another drive-in bingo? Yes, during the summer, I believe we will have some more drive-in bingos. That was a really successful event at the Stir Center. So we are working on those. All of our summer events this summer are smaller in scale. So you won't see like the traditional big concerts in the park or Groovin' on the Grass. We've gone to more events that are smaller in scope and more of a smaller neighborhood focus. So yes, we're definitely bringing more bingos and smaller park events. So the good news is there will be more, but not giant gatherings, so that we can keep our numbers lower. Any other questions?
Oops. I see the pool is open for at the Aquatic Center, Conestoga, and the Raleigh one, because Raleigh, I assume, is because it's outside.
Raleigh's open and Somerset West just opened within the last week. So those are both open. Conestoga is open for now. It will close in July. It has some really important maintenance work that has to be done. So that's kind of a bummer, but the splash pads are opening soon. I'm really thinking they're going to be heavily used, especially with the city park fountain not being available. So we do have the new splash pad up at Cedar Hills Park. We've got Timberland. We've got the one down here. So lots of splash pads that we're working on getting open Memorial Day weekend.
Good. Right. Thank you. Other questions?
All right. Well,
all right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. It was good to see you.
Good to see y'all.
Okay. Next up then is a presentation for Far West Recycling and Lani?
Yes, we have Travis and Rich here to talk about the project.
Excellent. Gentlemen?
Good evening, everybody. So my name is Travis Walsh. I'm an architectural designer for CEDA, along with Rich Brooks, an architect for CEDA. So what we're going to be talking about today is Far West Recycling. And I'm going to try to, I have two screens here, so I'm going to try to share, see what happens here. Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yes, I can see
Okay.
it. Yeah.
All right, so just a quick aerial overview. This project is for Far West Recycling Conditional Use Permit. The site is an approximately 2.4 acre site that was formerly used as, it's being used now, but will be formerly used as a wood truss fabrication plant. And the site is located at 10515 Southwest Allen Boulevard in Beaverton. So we'll go look here at our site plan. There are two existing main buildings located on the site, one up on the north there and one down the bottom left corner. And several existing smaller storage sheds along the border there on Allen and Western Avenue. The site is zoned in IND or industrial. According to the city zoning code, recycling, salvage, and scrap processing are permitted as a conditional use. This proposal is for CEDA to assist Far West Recycling with the conditional use process. And to meet parking standards of this use, new parking is needed to support the required number of spaces for the proposed use and will need to be landscaped in accordance with the City of Beaverton zoning code. So we do have a detail of that with added parking spaces on this site. Bicycle parking, short-term and long-term bicycle parking spaces are required and are identified on this plan set. And we'll get a closer look at that. Exterior uses, all businesses, repair, processing, storage, or merchandise display shall be conducted wholly within an enclosed building unless screened by a site obscuring fence or wall. So a large proponent of this project and work that will be happening for Far West will be happening within this existing metal building, metal storage facility. In terms of waste, all materials, including waste, shall be stored and all grounds shall be maintained in a manner which will not attract or aid the propagation of insects or rodents or create health or fire hazards. All areas for storage shall be fully screened. The primary use for this, again, is for metals recycling. So most of the work of the sorting will be happening inside and minimal waste will be accrued on this site. In terms of odors, the emissions of odors, gases, or a matter has to be readily detectable at any point beyond the property line is prohibited. The primary use, again, is for metals recycling, so that will be at a minimum. Traffic impact analysis was requested and has been completed by a company, Lancaster Mobley. And we can get into that more. And so on the site plan, as we zoom in here, so we do have information regarding freight movement through the site and clearances. We do have required ADA parking with designated sidewalk extensions from the entry for circulation to the right-of-way, and the expanded parking spaces with landscaping as shown here, and we will get into a closer look. So no new development is being done on this site and will not be affecting this existing rail crossing that is found on the site. And to take a look at the landscape plan for the parking. So we do have 3 new spaces that will total 47 parking spaces, which is the minimum requirement, with new landscaping, picking a tree from the Beaverton tree list, and as well as shrubs and ground cover. And that's about it. I guess we can go ahead and have any questions lined up if you guys have any. back up here.
Hey, Travis, can you hear me?
Yep.
So I wanted to just talk a little bit about how this facility functions. Far West Recycling used to be located in Beaverton, I think off of Denney Road. I think there was their lease expired or something. They ended up moving to Tualatin, but they always wanted to come back to Beaverton. And what they'll be doing at this facility is strictly metals and a minor amount of electronics recycling. The way they work is that the trucks that bring in the metals, bring them to the building. They're immediately carted inside the building. Smaller pieces are baled or put in bins. Larger pieces are run through a crusher that's inside the building, and then they're baled or put in bins. They don't do any smelting. They don't take any trash, garbage, or compost, or anything like that. Some metals may be sorted out and put in those covered sheds around the perimeter of the site that are existing, but there won't be stacks of metal out in the open yard. Everything will be inside a building. The existing use was fabrication for wood trusses, and the proposed use is more a warehouse function than it is a fabrication facility. So that's what I had.
I have a question about along Western there. Are you responsible for fixing that trail there, or is that part of the Western Avenue project? There's like
I think that's
pedestrian
part
path.
of the Western Avenue
Okay.
project. What we're doing is basically going for the conditional use only, and depending on whether or not the 3 parking spaces trigger a design review, like a type 1 administrative review or not, is yet to be determined. If it does, we'll apply for that as well. But my sense is that what we're doing on site is not going to trigger any threshold for design review. We have ADA upgrades, which we're volunteering, are exempt from design review. And as far as the 3 parking spaces, I think there's a threshold in there that I have to check, but I think we may be under that. We're also volunteering that we're going to be adding long and short-term parking spaces just because it's the right thing to do. Far West is considered a green business. They're in the business of recycling, which is a good thing. And we're fortunate in that this entire yard is already set up for truck movement without requiring any alterations.
So is the conditional use required because you're changing it from the wooden truss manufacturing to a recycling center? Is that the?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
an administrative, it's basically a change in use. And so because recycling falls under the conditional use criteria, we have to go for the conditional use approval.
So guys,
Thank you.
because you've got the small vehicle bays there in the middle, are those going to be inbound coming from other locations bringing metals here? Or are those retail, anticipating retail rigs?
Probably most of those might be inbound, and we probably are showing a lot more than what we'll ever need. A lot of the business that the stuff that's brought here is actually brought from corporate sources. There is some that's brought from private sources, but most of their work is more, larger lots of corporate stuff. When the police was making their presentation earlier in this meeting, they talked about catalytic converters, and I was talking with the owner about that just a couple of weeks ago, and he's Far West I think participates vigorously in helping to prevent those kinds of thefts They said every time they see catalytic converters coming in, they usually call the police and alert them as to what's going on.
But would they be identifying, are those small bays then, are those corporate rigs coming to make a drop at Far West, or are those Far West rigs that have gone to corporate to get?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So no, Far West, I think those are not Far West rigs.
Okay.
Normally people bring the stuff here. And then what Far West does after they sort it and package it for shipping, then they send it out to, you know, smelters or people who recycle the aluminum by melting it down and making new raw material. The electronic stuff, they usually just ship those, collect them and ship them out. I think they might do some disassembly there, but not much. When I walked through their facility, they weren't doing any electronics disassembly at all inside the existing building.
Okay. But so in that case, let's just say you had somebody who is a scrap metals gleaner who goes to different places to get metals. So they would bring it to this facility, and then somehow there's some type of financial compensation between that person dropping the metal and Far West.
Yes, and eventually they plan to put in a drive over scale on site. But that's going to be more of a building permit issue than it is a conditional use issue. And they may operate without that scale for a while until they get all the approvals on that. You've seen them, they just drive over it and they weigh your vehicle coming and going to see how much stuff you brought in.
Yeah, I've seen that one out in North Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The
those are my
crusher that
questions.
they have is going to be located inside the building.
Right.
So it won't be, all its noise will be contained by the building.
We hope. We've been down this road on the recycling center that we have up on Beaverton Hillsdale Highway.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot of residential nearby. So.
No, there's not. And Travis mentioned we did do a traffic impact analysis that we will be submitting with the conditional use application. And based on the analysis of the previous use and the proposed use, we actually have a decrease in trip generation from what was there before. So that's good news for everybody.
So only businesses can return things, or can anybody bring scrap metal then?
I think the private sector can bring in scrap metal, but I don't think that's a big part of what they do at Far West.
Okay, I just was thinking of the old Denney one across the way from us, and while it was focused on cardboard, they also had the dumpsters on the side that would take back a lot of other things. So I wondered if there was a plan or consideration to bring that back, because people really lost a pretty viable option.
Yeah,
it was
that's
corner.
a question I did ask. Right now, the owner basically is only focusing on metals. At this point, he doesn't have a lot of plans to do anything other than metals. Far West has other facilities. They have one in Hillsborough, and they have one in out in East Portland, up by the Columbia River. And I think there's one or two other facilities that they operate. And some of those take other things, but I think in this location, he was mostly focused on just metals only.
Yeah, would that be electronics as well?
Yeah, and plus this limited amount of electronics. For instance, when you take your old cable box back to Comcast because it's not working anymore, and they give you a new one, Comcast sends the old cable box to Far West Recycling.
With the scope of of this new facility compared to what was at Denney in 217, as Ernie brought up, that was a big void when that left. where a lot of the recycling from consumer level disappeared. And what you're proposing for, or what we're faced with now is most people are faced with a fair amount of commute to continue with that type of recycling.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ron. That's, I think that's the one thing, Rich, you'd like to pass back. I do understand they've got a couple other facilities, but like you're saying, if you're taking cardboard, I got to go all the way across town to one spot.
Okay, well, I'll let him know. You know, he's a businessman, so he'll do what makes sense.
Understand that. We're hoping that maybe there's a way, I think as well, with the area, that perhaps they can partner with the city, because I know there are a lot of people concerned about plastics and everything. And when Far West pulled out of the Denney 217 facility, and it's unfortunate that that building looks completely empty still.
Yeah, I know.
Complete and utter waste of everything. They offered to do a homeless shelter in there too, and that didn't materialize either. But it would be nice if there was a way to partner with the city, because a lot of people have some pretty valid concerns about what to do with things they just don't want to throw in a landfill, and would like to see somehow perhaps
even a commute out to Hillsborough, I think a lot of people object to that distance.
Yep.
Well, I think those are all really good points, and I'll be certainly happy to talk to the owner about that and let him know that there is an interest in other activities besides metals, and maybe he'll be willing to look at that. He does have that other building on the site that is being subleased to a car dealership. Right now, that's going to continue as kind of a vehicle storage building for, I think it's lithium motors. So, but it is actually a part of the site, parcel wise.
I appreciate you taking that information back. We definitely would appreciate it. Lani, I don't remember right off the top, do you know when that intersection work was going to be done? That'll be after the water line goes through there, correct?
I believe so. I'd have to go look at the time frame. I can't remember.
Seemed like it was a year or two off, I thought.
Yeah.
Last I heard it was 23.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it starts in the fall of next year is what I want to say off the top of my memory. But to Ron's point, yeah, it then goes into 2023. Oh, how about I bring that detail back to the next meeting, or I can try to find it online right now and see.
Yeah, because some of the Western stuff is already going, and then the ice cream place and what, you know, if those ever get going, and how that would affect everything. And that information would be helpful. So. All right, are there any other questions? Thank you, appreciate your time. Rich, Travis, appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, next up then, Rick has some information on the traffic calming.
Yeah, traffic calming that you got the chance to see not that long ago. So some of this may end up, I was going to say, some of this may end up being somewhat redundant for you. Lani, can you pull up that PowerPoint? So Lani and Miles did a really good job of putting a PowerPoint together that I can kind of go through. The gist of this in relation to traffic calming came from the neighborhoods feeding back into BCCI, because there's been some concerns about traffic calming actions that certain neighborhoods wanted to have. And based on the process that the Traffic Commission uses, there were situations that they had hoped would have been taken care of and did not. So what I'm going to kind of do is walk you through this as soon as Lani can give me the PowerPoint. Kind of, there we go. Yay. Okay. All right. So go ahead and go to the second one. Let
me get it.
From the beginning. Yay. Okay. There we go. So purpose is pretty simple. I mean, I live in the Royal Woodlands neighborhood. Most of the streets that are in Royal Woodlands have some type of traffic calming. They're predominantly speed bumps, few stop signs, few dead end signs, things like that to kind of show people what to do. So the whole idea, of course, is why do they go in? It's because somebody has a complaint. So certain neighbors in an area may just say, boy, we got a lot of people going way too fast down these streets. We want to have some means of traffic calming. So Lani, go to the next one. So there are different ways to do it. You can do it with speed bumps. You can do it with roundabouts. You can put up speed signs. You can ask for the speed trailer to come in and show everybody, hey, you're going 5 miles or 10 miles over the speed limit, stop. And then the other idea of these, what they call curb bump outs, which are ways to get people to kind of see visually what's going on, to get them to slow themselves down. So the whole idea was that the staff of the city will end up working with a specific neighborhood, looking at all the different options, find out what's really going on, and then have the staff go in, including the police department, to go in and look to see if they're, how can they deal with this? What are the options to go there? Lani, go ahead and go to the next one. So as an example, here's what happened in one particular area. So you have a neighborhood that decides it wants to have traffic calming. They go in, they do the study, they recognize that it may need to happen because people are going too fast in that neighborhood. So there's 100 homes affected. They send out ballots to all 100 homes, and 65 people come back and say, yes, we wanted that there, but here's that magic number. 60 say you got to have 67% to say yes in order to have the traffic calming installed. So out of this block, 65 come in with a yes, 5 homes came in with a no, but 30 said, I don't really care. It didn't really matter to me whether they're there or they're not there. Based on the way the Traffic Commission works today with the process that they use, anybody who does not return a ballot is considered a no. So rather than silence breeding consent or implying consent, it's, in this case, silence implies you're opposed. So that was a major concern to all the neighborhoods. So what they've done is we've taken this information that you're now seeing here. It's gone to every one of the different NACs, the 11 NACs that we have, us included, the other 10, to go to everybody and then be able to come back and be able to give a sense of what we believe in each of the neighborhoods. Needs to go back to the Traffic Commission in order to be able to say to them, hey, we think that you need to review this policy and take a look at it. And the City Council has been very, very strong about it as well. They are heavily involved in it along with us. So how's it work? Well, I mean, I can say this, but Ernie's the chair of the Traffic Commission. He can probably articulate it probably better than I am. And Ernie, feel free to stop me if I say something that I shouldn't. But the whole idea here is that it's a Traffic Commission with the City Council. Traffic Commission is the driving force. So they've got to initiate the review. We can all make suggestions and say, hey, we think you need to review this, which is exactly what's going on with the different neighborhoods, back to the Traffic Commission. And that's why I'm presenting to all of you today is that DWRW, after hearing this, should seriously consider going on record to be able to ask the Traffic Commission to do a review of the process, to take a look at those items and then see if there's a way to change that. Maybe changing the simple majority from to 51%. Maybe it's saying, well, no, if you don't vote, then you don't count, and therefore it's only those that vote that matter, which is what we have today when we vote anyway. So just there are different ways to go here to make it. The problem that we've got is that some traffic calming events did not get a chance to make it, mostly because the people who did not vote got counted as no's and therefore didn't come in. So, and you want to go one more? Okay. So there I go. Just said this presentation has gone to all the NACs. All the NACs are doing exactly the same thing we are, and they're all feeding information back to BCCI and to the Traffic Commission. So, any questions? No? Clear as mud? Sorry. So I know it's
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So it sounds like the kind of trigger for this is that people wanted to put in traffic calming and they weren't able to get traffic calming, correct?
Yes, but it was predominantly because of the process. In other words, you have a majority who voted in favor, but because the process said
Right.
67%, because the process said that a abstention, a no, a
A
non-vote
non-vote.
was a no. And so
Right.
that created this dilemma, which is, well, wait a minute, is that the appropriate process when a neighborhood overwhelmingly wants traffic calming embedded in the neighborhood?
Right. I guess
Define overwhelmingly, I guess.
yeah, I was
Well, yeah, I'd say overwhelming, meaning in some cases, the numbers that I had, and we didn't have those, but there were some in which there were 62, 65%
of the
in which they
total.
voted in total. And the numbers that I saw that they've gone through, we sent the city traffic engineer Jabra back into going to run down all the numbers to look at it. And I think they presented these to the traffic commission already. Put down a whole bunch of different numbers, and you could see exactly where the non-votes actually changed the tilt so that it became a negative, even though if you went by vote count, it was yes to no. But take the nons and it goes like that.
Yeah, I guess I could see lowering the threshold from 67% to, 55% or something. But I'm a little concerned about not counting the non-votes without a little bit more understanding of why people aren't voting. Like how does traffic commission or how does the city solicit those votes? Like, are they requiring people to go online and maybe people don't have computers, or do they get a plain white envelope that they don't know what it is and they throw it away, or, like how much effort is the city?
Yeah, some
putting
of
into-
that actually came up in the conversation where the city let us know what it looked like when it went out. Usually what happens is the citizens who are in favor of it go out and then start chasing down the neighborhood and start knocking on doors and going, hey, did you get one of these? Because if you did, this is really important, because they knew that not being a non-vote was going to work against you. You had to try to get everybody and his cousin to be able to vote. So in that case, if they couldn't get to everybody, say it was 200 houses instead of 100 houses, or from a major street, then that non-vote became really, really important.
So why didn't they vote, Rick?
Good question.
If
Some
people are going
were,
to the
it
door
didn't
and
really
knocking
matter.
and saying, "Would
Go
you
ahead.
please vote?" You need to vote. Why do you only get back 25% of the votes of the ballots? Even after multiple calls, the city goes out to them. One of the discussions that came up was that if I don't say anything, nobody's going to know it was me. I don't want to be the person that says no, because it's a matter of public record. Everybody knows that I'm the person that torpedoed this. So that was a concern as well, is that this is not a secret ballot. It's a matter of public record. But that was one of the questions I think that came up from the Traffic Commission was, how do you get 75% of the population on the street to say, I'm willing to look at this, and then 25% vote? There's a reason that those 50% did not return the ballot, even when asked directly, would you please vote? And so that's, the other thing was, I think, the one thing I'd point out to everybody, and we told Terry this as well, and we told Highland, because they were the group that said they want the street to go through, and they have a group that wants to do it, and that was on our record. They wanted us to review it, and we reviewed it. There was no solution. There was no suggestion for how to fix this. There was no suggestion for how to balance. If you get back 20 out of 100 votes, and 11 of them said yes, then 11% changed the whole thing for that group. There was no suggestions or recommendations for what we could do. It was kind of left for the commission to decide. And we've done this for 10 years now. For 10 years, we've gone through these over and over and over. And I'm not sure how many of the other ones they brought up as well. There've been a couple where everybody agreed they wanted a speed bump, and there was 90% approval rating for getting a speed bump in, which is, I think, some of your numbers. I just don't want it to go in front of my house. So it needs to go in front of Sherry's house. Now, as long as it goes in front of Sherry's house, then I'm going to vote yes. And then it came back and said, well, no, Sherry doesn't want it in there. Then there was another one that came back. One guy, some of them wanted speed bumps, some of them wanted a reduced roadway. They couldn't agree on the solution.
Right.
It all went, and then it kind of puts it into the same thing. Well, I'm not going to vote at all. And I guess that was one of the things that was really difficult. So I'll let Tracy kind of go on that.
Just, it's, I don't know, maybe this just based on the street I live on, does the city do any looking into why there is a speed problem? Like if a street is suddenly being used as a pass through, is there a different root cause that needs to be addressed?
That,
You know what I
from
mean?
what we were told from Jabra, they investigate
do
all
that.
of that. Yeah, so you start with the complaint. So if it was your street and you're the one who's complaining, they're going to come out to you and they're going to say, what's the issue? And then you and let's say 4 or 5 other neighbors are all going, well, here's what it is. And then they're going to figure out from there as to what that piece is. Then part of it too is working with you. Well, what could we do? Can we put up a speed sign? Can we do this? Can we put the trailer in and scare the heck out of them? You know, something. So there's a set of attempts that they attempt to do to try to get there. It's when it finally reaches that space where it really sounds like you've got a majority. And, you know, Ernie, I guess, you know, part of this too is I'm going on information that's anecdotal that comes to us at BCCI from the neighborhoods. So West Slope will say, well, yeah, with us 12 years ago, this happened. And then Vos will come out with, well, we've got this piece. And so it's patching together all these different experiences coming from the 11, you know, different neighborhoods, and then trying to find a way, you know, it gets thrown onto you guys at the Traffic Commission to say, okay, fix this. Because usually by that point it's at white heat. I mean, I know that in the conversations at BCCI with the people who didn't get what they wanted, it got animated. I mean, there were some people who were pretty agitated about things that didn't happen because they're concerned about their kids. And so when that happens, they get their radar goes off and they get, you know, their tone goes up and they're you know, a little bit redder in the cheeks as they're having a conversation. And so that becomes a point that I think it has reached the level, and you know, we've had this conversation with folks who talk to the city council, and the city council is paying attention to this as much as anybody. So it's a definite point. Yeah, Sherry?
Sherry?
Yeah, I just had a question based on something that we've talked about in the past. I wondered when the ballots go out, do they go out to the actual street address? Because I know like when there's renters, sometimes the owners get the ballot and then the renter doesn't, and then the renter doesn't have a say even though they live there. So I just wondered how that's
Lani
being
can
handled.
reiterate, but I believe that the situation is, let's say that I own a property and I have a renter. 2 ballots arrive. 1 ballot arrives from me, the property owner, and 1 ballot arrives for the renter, I believe. Or who's if I'm the owner based on the records, but I live in, you know, Los Angeles, the ballot goes to me in Los Angeles, and the other ballot goes to the renter who's there actually on the street itself.
So you could have someone voting for something without having any relation to the impact.
I believe that's the case.
Correct.
Lani,
Because
correct
that's a
me if
little
I'm wrong,
weird.
but I believe that's the case.
So there's two parts to it, just so you understand. So there's the part where you go out and say, I want traffic calming, and they fill out the form, and then they run up down the street. When they do that, it's on the immediate street and say, are you interested in doing this? Then when they get their solution and recommendation together and whatever they agree, if they agree, because sometimes they don't even get that far, but we take that and we put it on, and the Traffic Commission then says, okay, we'll rank these in order of importance, and if you're high enough, then we'll do it. And almost all cases, we take everything within a year because there aren't that many that come up. But just because they get into the queue doesn't mean that they get far enough along. At the end of the process, though, when they do get a solution, then that goes to not only everyone on the street, but the broader audience as well, for the people that are going to be impacted on the other side. Because if you put traffic calming on exactly what you were saying, Tracy, on Sorrento, people are going to go up and try and go down a different side street, right? The Greenway, right? So that includes bigger, and there's one to the property owner and there's one to the person, the resident. The other thing though is there's 1 per household. So if the household can't agree, probably won't get back about
Whoever gets the envelope.
Because, right, you're right, exactly. So I don't want to,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, we've had those discussions too, but yeah, it's one per household, it's one per resident there, and one per the property owner, and then it's adjacent area for a certain distance as well.
Right.
So the voting area is bigger than there's a bigger number of people that are involved in the vote than are involved in just getting it to the point of being voted on.
Correct, because of the cost involved once, and it's the same to get rid of it. So the reason that it was set high initially, as Jabra explained, is that once you go in, it's almost impossible to get them out. And so if you don't like what goes in, it's not you may or may not have a success getting them out because they won't come out. So they want to be very careful what they do. Also, the cost to the city of you can't put them in and take them out, put them in and take it out.
Like
Right.
stuffing the genie back in the bottle.
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm not usually one to argue for the status quo, but I feel like having a reasonably high bar. I mean, like I was saying, maybe the bar is too high now, but if to count everybody who doesn't vote as a non-vote is a little concerning to me, because like, how do we know that the process isn't working exactly as intended now? You know, maybe the bar is high because we want to avoid these sorts of situations where, I mean, we know this just from being in the NAC, that there can be a sign in their front yard saying that there's a neighborhood meeting about something and they won't know that it's happening. So I just have this, my experience in the NAC is that the people who are coming to you are the squeaky wheels, and they're not always, sometimes there, but they're not always speaking for what kind of the majority feeling is. And so that, I don't know, I would want to do some math, I guess, to
You're running
to think that through a little bit.
You're running into the people with the agenda mostly.
Right. Yeah. I guess that's kind of what I'm afraid of. Like, is this all about some people who are really angry? Like, you know, those really active people on the street that just didn't get their way, and now they're wanting to change a process that maybe is okay. I just don't feel like I have enough information to respond to that effectively. Like, like back to the question of like, why are people not voting? I think we should know more about that before we start throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
And I know one other suggestion that BCCI had was just how the ballots go out. You know, there needs to be like a marketing look. Like, does it really stand out? Because we have heard many testimonials that from different NACs where they would ask their neighbors, well, I didn't see it. And so, you know, it goes in the garbage can before, or recycling actually, you know, before they realize it was actually something they should have voted on. So that was another topic that, you know, this group, along with Rick, has been discussing, is how that information is mailed out to make it stand out in the mailbox, because it's currently mailed out.
Yeah.
Correct.
Probably another
and does it, oh, sorry.
Well, I was going to say another thing that people start getting conditioned if you start having a frequent number of these ballots or envelopes going out. People start getting conditioned saying, oh, here's another, I'll get to it later, or they just forget about it.
Yeah, I also think that if you're asking people to fill out a piece of paper and mail it back, that might be more than some people are able to take on right now. So is there like online voting? Can they text it? Like, you know, what are the options?
Right.
I think if you make voting difficult, then you definitely should not be considering the non-voters as not interested. It may just be that we've made a barrier there that we could do better with.
We could vote by Zoom.
Yeah. But then they'd have to come to a NAC meeting.
Yeah, I would say that
around our computers.
The sense of most of the NACs are that I think the vast majority will be asking the Traffic Commission for a review on this. So,
well,
right, and I guess that was my point.
Again, I guess I want to make one thing, Tracy, when it's the point, Rick, though, is that we just reviewed this on our own in March. And the questions that and Terry, when Terry spoke, this is exactly what we said, though, and I'm on the record as saying that. I said, you should be going back to the NACs and finding out what you think the problem is, because you're asking us to solve a problem that we don't see, to come up with a solution that we don't have a problem with, right? We've already, for 10 years, we've had this discussion about why do people not return ballots. The city calls them, the city goes out and drops them off. Jabra has driven to people's houses and handed them another ballot. He's marked on the outside, ballot enclosed. They've had meetings about it. So it's not like, to Ron's point, that they're getting multiple things. It's like, okay, you're having a traffic calming on your street. So if you're going to do something and you're having a discussion, don't say you need to review it. That does nothing for it. We just reviewed it. We asked her specifically for solutions and recommendations, because we've gone through this for 10 years and we have examples of why it does and doesn't work. But the questions are exactly what Tracy's brought up. Why don't we get enough ballots, and how many people need to vote with a yes before you say non-majority rules? If 10 people return the ballots out of 100, you know, then 6 people, it was 6 to 4 out of 100, out of 10 ballots returned out of 100 sent, then 6% of the people were able to control that entire process.
Right.
That's why we're not, we need solution recommendations, not just review it, because we just reviewed it two months ago.
Okay.
So that's what that to me is what part of the BCCI thing should be doing, is they're saying, hey, here's some solutions and recommendations. That would really help, because otherwise we're reviewing it, but we've already reviewed it over and over. We had a lawyer come in 2 years ago when we did it, and he read many things, but he ultimately had no recommendation. He just said, this isn't working. Well, what is it? Well, he didn't know. So that it puts us in an awkward spot to say, okay, we that's the struggle that the commission had, and I think if people want, and you know, that's the part. And I'm trying to balance it out as chair and of the, you know, the NAC and the commission and both, because that's the thing. 10 years we've struggled with that. How do we make it? And it's not that they don't want to do it. It's that we've had this discussion. Mayor Beatty's husband used to be on the traffic commission, and his point was, what does a no return mean? I don't know what to do with that. I do not know what to do with that. So, and there's a reason that they signed the first one, but they don't vote in the second one. And we have not heard anybody be able to articulate why their neighbors are not. And we have to make some educated guesses about, you know, what may or may not be the reasons or motivations. I'm sorry, Tracy, go ahead. I just want to make that before we.
I guess part of it too is I'm a little cautious in assume, speaking as someone who's been on a NAC for a really long time, I would say there are maybe most of the time the neighbors who are coming to the NAC to complain about things are like the most vocal people are not necessarily the voice of the broader neighborhood, at least from where I sit, which is why you should go to your NAC meeting and become involved. But so I guess I'm just wary, because there's a big unknown, and I don't feel like we can make an assumption that kind of disenfranchises a large chunk of people potentially, without just knowing a little bit more about what's going on there. And maybe the solution is we start using pink envelopes and see how that goes. And if that doesn't work, we've tried, or whatever. I would want to know more about kind of what that process looked like. And also, like, are the ballots going out in multiple languages? Are they, is it a postcard, or is it that's prepaid, or does someone have to put a stamp on it? Or like, how hard or easy are we making it for people to do stuff?
Ron?
I'm curious if there's ever been an inquiry made to other municipalities to see how they attack this dilemma and what their success rate is.
That's a good question.
I think Jabra has some of that information. When they presented to us, the city was talking about what to do. He also gave us a presentation. If you're interested in that, you can get the recording of the March meeting, and in there Jabra explains how the entire traffic calming process came to be and the history behind it, the number of changes we've had and everything. So there's some stuff out there, Ron, but they're definitely, I think that conversation, if not, like directly, there's been some follow-up and some understanding about how this works and what it does. Rick, did anybody propose solutions that other NACs are saying, well, here's what we're thinking. What do you think?
Not specifically.
Okay, because that's I think kind of puts people on the spot to, because it
And I'm
is.
just
I
gonna
mean,
add
we
to
can
that.
go on, Lani.
Yeah, that I know that Rick and the group is gonna reconvene next week and listen to all the NAC's feedback. So part of that is, you know, doing that huddle of what did everyone talk about at the individual NAC meetings, what ideas were brought up. And that meeting's not happening until May 24th because not, you know, but half the NAC meetings are happening this month. So I do think some more details will come forward. I know one NAC is going door to door canvassing and they've hit over 300 homes of where they've, you know, talked to neighbors about this to get their feedback and ask them to just submit their feedback online.
You're going to get inundated, Ernie.
That's what we need, because the last time we reviewed it, like we said, the only people that showed up were the Highland people who said this isn't working, and it turned out the people that spoke were all on the one street that didn't get it passed, and that was part of the. I don't want to say it was just all, but that was kind of the onus of this wasn't working for them, and well, what do we do? And there just weren't any solutions, and so. You know, feedback is great as long as there's some, you know, be part of the solution, not just explain the problems, because we don't know. Like we said, because I know that Commissioner Henderson and Commissioner Beatty both went round and round in some good discussions about what does it mean to not vote? You know, are you doing this on purpose, or are you doing it for not? And that really was one of the concerns was that there's a reason. There has to be a reason when people are reaching out. Because Javert said that there were times when he would take an extra card out. He'd drive out there to him. If he didn't, he'd call him and say, did you get this? Did you? So yeah, it would surely, all the input and feedback we're definitely open to doing, because without it, we'd kind of left to, you know.
I will take all this back.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we saw, and it'll be interesting to get Jobber's numbers though, is that I think the difference between the 67 and the 51 only changed one part, I thought. But I have to go back and look at the minutes too.
Yeah.
I think there was definitely discussion about if we lowered it, well, it actually would have only changed, I think, one, because that's what we had. But yes, we definitely would love some input.
Okay, can do. I'll take it back.
Do you mean the threshold was changed from using the current model where the no votes do get counted in the percentage if it changed from 67 to 51, or are you talking about the old model at 67 and the new model at 51?
Right, ballots returned. If you took the ballots returned at 67 and you lowered it to only needing 51%, then I believe that the majority would still rule of ballots returned. And I think that only affected one. But to Rick's point about, you know, what if you get 60% of the ballots back, but you needed 66, right? That was kind of where we came in. And I think again that what would really help BCCI and for Lani and when the other groups meet is to understand what they think so if they were on the board, or sorry, if they were on the commission and this came before them, you know, what's
the recommendation
they do? Because that's really it kind of puts them on the spot if there's a reason. We just don't. And again, we've had this for like 10 years, and there've been some discussions about what the best way, but most of the time it's the board, it's the commission discussing. We don't get solution suggestions. So the feedback, if they've got 300 people in Highlands, then that would definitely be interesting, because I could see something like happen in South Beaverton and Cooper Mountain with all those other homes coming in. You know, if 153rd starts to get too busy, are they going to go elsewhere? That's the other thing we've seen that's been a concern too, that I sense is that neighboring streets are saying if you put it through there, then they're gonna like it. And you can't do it to all the streets either, Tracy. Like, so if for example, and it would never happen, but if, for example, you put traffic calming on, well, it would be better on too many people go down Heather because they're trying to cut off Denney. Then
Right.
Heather would put it on. Well, the people on Cynthia would have a vote, and they would vote no, or they would not return the ballot because if you put it over there, they're going to come down Cynthia, right? So then the people on Cynthia are saying, well, I don't want speed bumps over there. They're just going to put them over here. And I have to have speed bumps on mine. So that piece was suggestions like that are really, I think, would help.
That just confuses Waze.
What's that?
The app Waze gets
Waze.
confused.
Yeah. But yeah, there are definitely some good talks, Rick, and I know that this has been going on for a long time, and some people feel it works really well, and some people are just like, how do we get this done? And we'd
Yeah,
love
I
to-
agree. And then, yeah, and
love to
part of it is, it's get everybody past the whining and get into the recommendations. And I get it.
Yeah.
I've sat in the rooms, Lani can tell you, I've done hours of this. And yeah, it reaches a certain place where it's like, okay, so what's your recommendation? What do you want to do here? So yeah, I'll take this
Yeah.
back and I'll do what I can to try to convince them to come up with a specific set of recommendations, and then you can do it from there.
Yeah, and I did suggest that to Terry when they did that. I said, you know, what you should do is take this to BCCI to city level and go back and figure out what to do and come back with recommendations.
Yep. Fair enough.
Cool. Anything else on that?
But thanks, Rick, for working on this. It's clearly a very complicated, fraught problem.
Well, Ernie's brought up some good points. Real quick, sorry to take a couple more minutes, but Ernie's made some good points to me, which is try to push BCCI to do citywide things that matter to all 11 neighborhoods to make that work. And this is one of those that should be there along with, you know, the houseless issues that we've got and other things that are there. And so I've been trying to put my flag up in those meetings to say, can we deal with some of these issues, or at least get them out in the open so we can take it back to the neighborhoods and let the NACs know what's going on.
Cool.
Yes. All right, next up, I think we have our business, and then we'll be done.
Oh, and I can do a really quick update too for the city.
Yes. Lani has her city updates.
Yes.
But I'll be really brief.
She's sending in advance. I'll get them all in the minutes. So.
Hi, everyone. So just a few quick updates. We are making progress on the city manager hiring process. And so tonight, right before this meeting at 6 o'clock, we actually had a webinar where you could have met and asked questions to the 2 finalists. And if you didn't get a chance to see it, we'll have that recording online. And there's also a survey. We want to hear from you. So I don't know though when the survey is going to close, because I know there's, you know, they're on a really tight time frame to get this hiring process going fast. But I would definitely take a look at the website tomorrow, and I'll put in the chat the website address.
I'll do that.
And oh, thank you. And then the main goal is City Council would like to make the appointment by summertime. And then the second item is the free tax help has been extended. Cash Oregon and Metropolitan Family Services will continue to offer free tax preparation and filing services through July 15th to Beaverton residents. So please share that for anyone that could use that special assistance. And also, if you didn't already know this, especially if you owe, the IRS tax deadline has been moved to May 17th. And beginning May 27th, the assistance for this will, after the deadline, will be offered on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And we have a phone number that you can call to make an appointment, as well as you can also go online. Oh, yep, you're putting everything. If Tracy doesn't add that into the chat, I'll add that.
Yeah.
And then lastly, just an FYI that City Council has moved their meetings to 6 p.m. They used to meet at 6:30, but this month they have now moved it up earlier since we the current state of emergency is in effect. And we found too, like just starting virtual meetings earlier has been really effective. And the other thing I just want to note though is every now and then roundtables will start at 5:30. So if you ever have any question about when a meeting is going to start, or if there's a topic you're interested in, always go onto the city's website at beavertonoregon.gov city council, and it'll have the time frame on there. But for now, 6 o'clock is the time to remember. And that's my quick wrap up.
Excellent. Thank you, Lani. That did bring up one point, I guess, since the meeting is recorded and everything, I should make sure that I should have said something before that comments about the traffic calming do not represent the Traffic Commission. So I can't speak for the Traffic Commission. I can't either as a commissioner or as chair. And it's everything I said basically about that was 10 years of experience and just what I've heard and what I've seen. So there's what's on the record for the meeting minutes, but I cannot just what I can say is just what I did about the suggestions for how BCCI, because I think it would really help for several things that we've seen. That's really the voice. That's really the voice of the city, I think, because all the NACs can feed in and then have a unified voice as opposed to the other. So I felt I needed to make sure that was said just to make sure. All right, next, then the board minutes or board business, BCCI report. Rick, is there anything beyond?
Or was that it?
Have they been talking about anything else besides that, or has that consumed most of the?
Well, the other part that usually consumes it was the election. There was a lot that was leading up to the election next Tuesday of our new city council seat, or our open city council seat. So that was that one. There are a number of other things that are kind of bubbling along, but these two issues of the voting process and then the traffic calming has kind of seized and grabbed a lot of the mental space.
Okay. All right, treasurer's report, Sherry.
Yes, I'm going to back up to March because in March we had a $500 deposit. Then that was money given to us or given to our NAC by the city, and it was given by given to each of the NACs.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So yeah, so in March, and then there was the additional 26-cent dividend. So and then in April there was 27 cents. So that is the extent of my reports.
Excellent. The next thing would be approval of the minutes.
February.
What's that?
I can't.
February. That's the last time we met.
Yeah, and I wanted to double check. I thought that they were.
They are posted.
Okay, good, because I did.
Yep.
I move to approve them as is.
Second.
So motion was made by Sherry, seconded by Rick. Roll call is Tracy.
Yes.
I think
pass.
you're supposed to verbally say.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not sure how we've done that in the other, but Sherry,
Approve, whatever.
Rick,
Approve.
and then Ernie, approve. Okay. We usually do a roll, and I'm not sure if that's supposed to happen with since we're not in the official meeting room, or you have to have it on the audio part. I'm not. So that's why I went through that part. Okay, and then the last piece, where did that? Whoops, I lost my.
New business.
New business. There was one. Oh wait, anybody else? New business? Visitor comments, Ron. When Lani was talking about or Sherry was talking about the money donation, I was thinking about when we did the volunteer work and everything. I found all of the sandwich board signs that we used to put out on the streets, and they somehow all came back to us because we stopped putting out the signs. And then when we moved, we didn't have new ones made. We were going to spend the money on it. And we decided it really wasn't a good use of the funds. So Lani, do you need to bring those back, or what can we? They're pretty nice signs.
Yeah, those are really valuable. I would definitely keep them. But we have been, if you're wanting new ones printed that highlight that you're on Zoom now. We've been making those for NACs, and we've heard from a few neighborhoods that that's actually been really helpful for people to see that, oh, I can go watch it online as they're walking by. So if that's something that's useful, just let me know and I can get that ordered. And I can't remember what your A-frame looks like, but we've been using ones that it gets inserted in, the poster gets inserted in a weatherproof signage frame. So
Okay, because these are the old wooden ones from way back.
yeah, so
The big heavy.
we've upgraded for us that can't carry those around anymore. So
Yeah, and we put those out because we put paper over the top when we moved to Garden Home, but that didn't work out very well because they get wet and they would those. All right, so we might bring those back to the city and let them. I don't know where we drop them off at.
yeah, you can drop them. You can coordinate with me and drop them off at, there's a drop off site by the, where it's right across from the food carts. There's a place you drive right in, and then I can give you better details. Whoever wants.
Okay, I know. Yeah, that little cutout where the doors are across from the. Yeah. Okay, I know.
By the
All right.
dumpster.
I know of a recycling center that will be opening up.
That's true. But I think
These aren't metal though, Ron. These aren't metal.
we can still reuse these. So we'll
Yeah.
put them to good use.
Yeah,
and
they're
then
definitely good.
they're good quality, and there's times that we just want those old fashioned ones out there because they don't blow down, they don't blow over.
Mhm.
But again, the offer's on the table if you so choose. If you want an upgraded lighter one that can highlight the online meetings, happy to get that put together. It takes about a month or so to get that ordered.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Ernie, I was going to tell you, have you been in touch with the CPO3 about the In-N-Out burger?
No, I think I'd asked Lani and everybody for an update. And last I heard, I can't think of who his name is, said they hadn't heard anything else either.
There's something scheduled, and it's going to be a week from today. I'll see if I can't try to find, it's a Zoom meeting and there's a code. I think it's just webinar style, so I don't think you can interact, but you can at least hear what's going on.
That'll be open to the public?
Oh yeah, I believe so. Yes,
And that'll be on the 20th?
on the 20th.
Well, a week from today would be the CPO3 meeting.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they got him to attend.
I don't think so. I don't think they got him to attend, but I think there's a community meeting. So I think this is more the community having a conversation about it and not the actual site folks.
Oh, okay. So that would be the CPO3 meeting then, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And I
Now that'll attract a crowd.
Oh,
yeah, I just,
I went to Corvallis about a month and a half ago, longest trip I've done in a while. And as we're passing by the stadium in Salem at the In-N-Out Burger there, as many months or over a year that place has been open, horrendous lines still.
are the burgers that good?
I wouldn't know.
I've never had one. I don't get waiting in line
About
for
opening
food
one in
like that.
Milwaukee now.
Oh, wow.
No, we're just experiencing lots of difficulties right now with Chick-fil-A. I mean,
Yeah.
it's blocked out onto Beaverton Hillsdale Highway now a number of
Yeah.
times. So
this says that the CPO3 meeting has been canceled so that people can attend the community meeting, and there is a Zoom link on that for next May 20th, 6 p.m.
And where'd you pick that up, Ernie?
It's on the CPO3 website. So if you go to their meeting agenda, they tell you that they've canceled the meeting so that there's an In-N-Out Burger community meeting.
Okay.
CPO3 will not be holding their meeting, so that community members may attend this neighborhood meeting regarding the proposed development.
Okay, great.
Doesn't actually say who's running that operation. Proposed, this is the second neighborhood meeting.
First one ran over 2 hours.
Lani, do you know if that's sponsored by CPO3 or I'm not sure what they're making the distinction here is the CPO3 is not holding their community meeting so that all members may attend this neighborhood meeting regarding a fast food restaurant, but it doesn't actually say who's sponsoring. The Zoom link is on their page though.
Yeah, I mean, in my sense, I don't know the answer to that. So it's a great question, but they probably, if they aren't sponsoring it, they probably just didn't want to conflict, so that everyone could go to that.
Right.
Or they knew no one
Right.
would come to their meetings. 'Cause-
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're making it
Good.
pretty bold on their webpage, Ernie, aren't they?
Yeah, I appreciate you pointing that out, Rick. I totally would have missed that. I didn't think they had any more. And last I checked, I hadn't heard anything else. So appreciate that. Good.
Okay.
All right. That in mind, anything else? We're adjourned, or we're going to meet next month.
if we have
So
agenda.
far. Do we have any agenda right now? I didn't.
Weather permitting.
And no one submitted anything my way that I know of. So, and then do you usually take July and August off?
Mhm.
July, August.
Come back September.
Yeah, we tried to meet in June. That's been back and forth because it's once school's out, we lost a lot of our folks. But I think we meet in June, and then July and August we were out, and then we come back in September when school starts.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, you know, Ernie, if I hear of anything, I'll pass that on to you, but so far it's been really quiet, so.
Okay. All right. Sounds good, everybody. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate all the help and work on that. It's a lot of meetings. All right.
Thanks for
Bye.
letting me interlope.
Oh, good to see you, Ron.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye,
All right.
everyone.